for that sector to develop in China. So within that context, we have this free trade agreement. We export $107 billion of product here from Australia, much of which is taxed. And we import $52 billion, and again, much of which is taxed. Those exports have been growing at 19% a year. 19% a year. This is an absolutely astronomical number. And any delay to this agreement, as we know, would have been very expensive for those exporters. We are behind Chile. We are behind New Zealand. We will fall behind the USA, Canada and the EU as the Chinese move from small country free trade agreements to larger country free trade agreements. We are right in the right place at the right time to get on with this. The breadth and depth of this agreement is really striking. On entry into force, 85% of our exports will be tariff-free, and once fully implemented, 95% of our exports will be tariff-free. Of great interest to me, of course, is agriculture, $9 billion of exports, and the beef industry will gain $270 million within a decade, and we're already seeing massive growth in meat exports up into China. Almonds, macadamia nuts will see the elimination of 24% tariff. We're already seeing 14,000 new hectares of almonds going into place. And of course, dairy, which I mentioned earlier, will see great benefits. The Lion Cheese factory in Burnie invested $150 million in preparation for Asian markets. I see one of my colleagues here from Tasmania. I mean, what a wonderful thing. We are seeing jobs, investment, already in anticipation of the growth of these markets. Of course, central to this free trade agreement is our ability to better control and market our product. At the moment, much of our product is going up into China. Let's face it, through grey markets, through Hong Kong and other countries. But we cannot control where that product goes. We cannot control how it is branded. We cannot control how it is marketed, and there will be great benefits flowing from that. In resources, in energy and services, I've already talked about. We will see extraordinary benefits, and I'm very confident that if we do the hard work necessary to knock down not just the trade barriers, the tariff barriers, but the non-tariff barriers, those benefits will flow thick and fast. The relationship will deepen, and in 20 years' time, when Paul Kelly or George Megalogenis are writing about how Philip Ruddock is staying for one more term, just one more term, they will be writing about the pivotal change that happened in Australia in 2015, when both sides of the House agreed to enter this free trade agreement. Now, before I finish, I do want to make a comment about one of the more difficult parts of this agreement that has caused some controversy and, of course, has been subject to a very aggressive campaign from some of the unions. The truth of the matter is that no one in this place, as far as I know, no one in this place is disputing a very simple principle, which is when it comes to jobs, Australians come first. Australians come first. And when foreign workers come here, they must have the skills to do the job. No one is disputing that. Both sides of the House are in absolutely furious agreement. We must prioritise Australians above foreign workers, and we must satisfy ourselves that when we are short of a skill set, that those coming in can actually meet the necessary, that they have the necessary skills to do the job. The debate here is about the method. What safeguards work and what don't. And the truth is that many of the safeguards that are being debated at the moment are ineffective. And I take labour market testing as an example. Now, labour market testing, let's be clear, it's a term of art. It describes putting an ad in a paper to see if anyone responds. But any employer in this modern era knows that that one is one of the least effective ways of finding employees. And in fact, regardless of the China Free Trade Agreement, under the Migration Act, it is essential, it is required that an employer who wants to bring someone in under a 457 visa, they or others must have previously demonstrated that there is a skill shortage, and that the only way we can meet that skill shortage is to bring in workers from offshore. There is labour market testing in the broadest sense of the term. Whether or not an ad in a newspaper is a necessary way to show that is subject to dispute. And in fact, we heard from an independent review from John Azarius and others only last year that they felt very strongly that labour market testing, as defined in the 457 legislation and as I've described it, is not effective as a way of ensuring that we are putting Australians first. I welcome the fact that those opposite are working with us on this agreement, and I welcome the fact that we can have an open and sensible debate with them about what safeguards are necessary. But I do think it's very important to look at the facts of what the current safeguards do and what they don't do before that debate actually, as part of that debate.